Welcome back to FatherofTwo Plays Pillars of Eternity. Last time we told this noble about the plot to steal the heart of Whitemarch, I believe?
Hello?
A gem from him.
Hello? I'll grant you that animancy has had its failures, Balreach among them. But does that warrant attacks on innocent practitioners? Superstitious kith have spilled their share of blood.
That's no comparison. Animancers have the advantage of education, and with that comes authority and responsibility.
I have to say, it's wonderful to have someone to debate with. You'd think they'd be more welcoming of it at the Law College.
Or we could enjoy a glass of wine and a comfortable silence.
Love the character interactions of your companions. What's this? Oh, we could sneak in the window. Oh. Well, we don't need to do that right now. Perhaps in the future. We got a couple of characters here whose pasts we can see, or at least stories we can see. Jalistra, the Palzerker Stobar. You see a dark room, noise filters in through a nearby doorway, the sound of battle, scuffling, metal on metal, cries of pain rise and fall as fight rages outside. A fight rages on outside. There is a bellow of rage and a Zaurip runs into the room holding a book tightly against its chest. It looks around frantically, searching for something. It hurries to the far side of the room and opens a box sitting on a makeshift table. It places the book in the box, closes it, and then bends over to push the box under the table. A small stone hits the back of the Zaurip's head, knocking it forward a little. The stone bouncing to the ground, rattling a little as it comes to rest on the floor next to the Zaurip's foot. It freezes in place, hands still on the box, eyes wide. As the clattering of stone quiets, silence takes control of the room again. The battle outside has stopped. It spins around to find this woman standing in the doorway, leaning on a savage-looking two-handed sword. "That book contains the answers I need," she snarls at it, moving forward. It hisses, rushing to meet her. Seconds later, she is retrieving the stone from the floor, having separated its head from its neck with a practiced flick of the sword. She smiles, kisses the stone, and then places it in a pouch on her belt, patting it fondly. Leaning over, she pulls the box from under the table and opens it, elated with her find. We read those multiple times. I always forget. Isabel. You see a lush forest, quiet and dark in the early morning light. This woman walks through the trees, a captivating look on her face. She doesn't appear to have a particular destination in mind as she wanders slowly between the enormous trunks, looking up through the branches and occasionally making a low chirping sound. When a responding chirp echoes through the quiet morning, she turns to head in that direction, obviously not concerned with losing her way. A loud, metallic snap, followed by a quick yelp, cuts through the air, and she looks to it, focusing in the direction from which the sound came. She moves toward it on the verge of running. She seems to realize suddenly that caution is important and freezes, looking down, her foot hovering over the pressure plate on a well-hidden bear trap. She leans back and gingerly places her foot back on the ground next to the trap. She looks around, anger darkening her features. Grabbing a nearby branch, she presses down on the plate and disables the trap. When it snaps shut, she hears another yelp, this time much closer. Scanning the ground for more traps, she carefully makes her way towards the trapped animal. Rounding one of the trees, she spies him, a large wolf, bony with malnourishment. Right hind leg held tight in the rusty metal teeth. He looks at her, and a low growl starts in the back of his throat. His hackles rise, and she pauses briefly to let him catch her scent. She lowers herself closer to the ground and holds her hands out, palms down in front of her. "Aren't you a beautiful boy?" She inches towards the wolf. Maybe the tale of how a ranger came to find her wolf? Alright, what is this? The Charred Barrel. Another inn, I suppose? I want to find some of those soul-bound items. They sound cool. Thristwin. Naunton. Hey. I remember you. Why do I remember you? You were the guy who trapped those priests down in the Temple of Aethys, aren't you? Let's talk to this guy first. Thristwin. The young elf is dressed in gaudy robes that he seems ready to cast off. He picks at a heavily brocaded sleeve and continually adjusts the gold chain around his neck. He looks up at you. Did she send you to run me out of town? You could tell her I'm not going anywhere without that medallion. I told Sorel I wouldn't let her sell it, if that's what you're here about. Then save your trouble. Or save yourself the trouble. He puffs up his chest, but glances to the exit. I'm not after you, but maybe I can help. He pulls at a shining button. That's a relief, but I don't see how. Sorel's a courtesan over at the Salty Mast in Andra's Gift. We've been working together for over a year now. I find a noble with more money than sense, fill him up with liquor, and send him her way. They have a good time, and Sorel takes her fee, and a little extra. He rubs his fingers together. 100 coppers here, a trinket there. It's a bounty for us. And these lords and ladies never notice anything missing. That's dishonest. He narrows his eyes. It's surviving. He points a finger, and one ruby ring catches the light. If those nobles have more wealth than they could hang on to, why should they keep it? Anyway, we always split the bounty until a week ago. He squeezes his lips into a tight frown. She takes a necklace off of some noble. It's an Angwethan medallion, damn near priceless. That relic is sacred to my clan, and she won't part with it for any sum I could afford. He tugs at the gold chain around his neck, and even if I wanted to, I can't go home without it. You're lying to me, aren't you? Tell me more about your situation. He picks at the hem of his sleeve. What do you want to know? Have a drink here before I continue on. What makes this medallion so important to you? I grew up in Aer Glanfath with the Shattering Spear clan. We Glanfathans have protected Angwithan ruins for thousands of years. It's the one duty the gods ask of us in exchange for the freedom to live as we please. He fidgets with an emerald ring on his pinky. But treasure hunters looted the ruins in our territory, and we left the wilds we dwelled in for generations. Most of my clanmates scattered to towns around the Deerwood and probably live on crusts of bread. He looks at his embroidered robes with disgust. Restoring this medallion to the ruins would earn us the gods' forgiveness. The Shattered Spear could go home. This is all rather fascinating. A single medallion to earn the gods' favor and so return home? It rather reminds me of a story I heard somewhere. Tell me about Sorel. She's a courtesan at the Salty Mast over in Andra's Gift. She wasn't born to much, but she's done what she has to in order to escape that. He glazes at a string of amber beads around his wrist. Wow, he's got a lot of jewelry, this guy. She's a good friend. He folds his arms in his trailing, wrinkled sleeves. Without her, I'd probably be living hand to mouth like the rest of the Shattering Spear. But this isn't about her or me. It's about the 40 people in my clan and the way of life we've held to for generations. Seems like you've done well enough for yourself. He clenches his heavily adorned hands. It was this or scrape by in the gutters like the rest of my clan, but I'd give it all for that medallion. I offered to, but it's worth more than anything I've got, and Sorel knows. I still don't understand why you can't take your money and return to Aer Glanfath. He sighs, arching his neatly plucked eyebrows. Of course I could, but that's not the point. A community isn't a place, it's a connection to history and meaning. He makes circles with his wrist, like an anchor. Defending the ruins for the gods gave us a purpose. Without that, we're adrift. Does this make any sense to you? Yeah, I guess it does. He smiles and nods slowly. Then you know what it's like. how to care for something you can't explain. That's all I wanted to ask. I'll see about getting the medallion from Sorel. You'll find her at the Salty Mass. The only way anyone sees her these days is by paying, so you'll have to go through Maya. He fidgets with his sleeve, but whatever you do, please don't hurt her. Each plate and utensil has been polished to a spotless shine. The thin-stemmed goblets ring melodiously at the strike of a fingernail. So we have more yellow or gold plaque people. We got a basement. We have an upstairs. We have Naunton. And an innkeep. Oh, and this person. Let's check this out. The scripts and props belong to a production of The Most Unfortunate Tale of Favia and Bernat. And what's this? Is this stealing? Shoot, I should have checked. Well, I don't need to take that fish anyway. Well, let's start by talking to Naunton. Begging your pardon. Oh, it's you. It's good to see you well. We've had a few rough days here, but when we found this place, and they were kind enough to hire us both. Oh, that's, the guy who killed the wife beater by letting the bear eat him. Right. He just kind of is dressed like that other dude. Things have been wonderful. I can't tell you how much we appreciate what you've done. Cool. Well, that feels good. Oh, and this is her there. Ingrid. It's hard work, but good wages. Can't complain. Abelhart Scarian.
Hello.
The man is dressed in neat but functional clothes. His sun-wrinkled skin and limber musculature reflect a life spent in the wilderness. Well met. What brings you to the Charred Barrel? Who are you? I was a cartographer for the Duke for decades. He rubs his neatly stubbled chin. Crossed the White March half a dozen times and mapped most of the ruins of Thane Bog. He grins, flashing a gold tooth. A good career, but one suited to younger men. When I came back to Defiance Bay for good, Cliver and a few other friends in the Knights helped me get the rights to refurbish this place. There's strong ale, quality entertainment, and a fresh sea breeze. He raises a mug. What more could a man want? Is this your place? It's my retirement. He thumps the bar. Used to be a warehouse back when Brackenbury saw more ship traffic, but it fell out of use when the area became mostly residential. I inherited it from some great uncle who never had any luck pawning it off on my cousins. Now it's the most popular spot in Brackenbury. The nobles come to unwind, and the kith from other districts come to mingle. He leans closer. We got a few rough types, too, but they behave in here. Besides, their coin is as good as anyone else's. Let's see what he has on the menu. Dragon meat dish. Oh, that's actually not bad. The might of the resolve and that kind of thing. I should think about using food sometimes to get through checks, you know, trying to get into dungeons, that kind of thing. That is expensive. Let's read about this. While tough, gamey, and notoriously hard to cook, dragon meat makes for a rich, fatty meal that is said to transfer the beast's strength and power to those who consume it. Dragon egg dish. The grandest of omelets. Those who feast on dragon eggs often find that there's very little they would not dare to do. Okay, let's check out the rooms. Upped intellect and will. That could have been good for talking to that other guy. Oh well. Oh, let's check on our fort, shall we? No adventures. And this is being built. 3 days left on the towers. Oh no. 2 days, 19 hours on the south curtain wall. Okay. Well, let's read about Hannah Oracos. You see a woman clad in expensive finery. Her eyes flash as she interrogates a trembling wreck on the ground. Reaching into his pocket, her hands curl around an address, and she smiles grimly. Moments later, she is in a bedraggled alleyway, her pace quickening. Her braids trail around a corner, and she is upon them. Or perhaps they are upon her. The action does not last, as she easily dispenses of man after man, searching their faces, clothes, shouts for something she fails to find. Frustrated, she moves on, but not quickly enough, as an Orlan attacks her from behind, the seal upon his finger glittering with malice. The woman's eyes alight upon it as she twists to evade his blow, and her eyes burn bright. Perhaps this was not a wasted trip after all. You see a large group of people... Victor. You see a large group of people gathered in the common area of a large inn. This man is standing in the midst of the people, engaged in conversation with someone. He is smiling and talking gregariously, moving from person to person with ease. He is able to extract himself from one conversation and insert himself into another without a break in his stride. He kisses the hand of a well-dressed woman, dipping her, then twirling her back into the arms of her escort. He moves on to another group, slapping someone on the back while laughing at a joke, and then he's off again, sliding between people, hugging someone, shaking hands. He never stops. Finally, he seems to have hit his limit, and he excuses himself from the gathering, much to the dismay of everyone there. He smiles and waves as he leaves, making a little bow with a flourish of the hand as he closes the door. Once he is away from the inn and around the corner, he pulls several objects from a concealed pocket in his jacket. He looks at each one in turn. A necklace, a brooch, a couple of coin pouches, and a small jewel. Smiling, he pours the money into his palm and quickly counts it. Still aimlessly wandering the streets, he passes a beggar, who holds out a bowl to him, pleading for a pittance. The man stops, smiles at the beggar, and drops all the coins into his bowl. Then he walks off, whistling happily. So we have a Robin Hood type character. Well, not quite, but you know what I mean. Given to the poor while robbing from the rich. Mort de Jest. Killing joke? Pirates. Merwith. Okay. Nobles. Let's, we got, what, 3 more stories here? Let's read this one. As you near, you feel a vibrant history contained in the essence of this man's soul. Voices from its past seem to call out to you. You see a group of children shouting, twisting laughter erupting from 2 small mouths. Not 2, not like the number 2, but 2 as in too much, too little, you know what I mean. An eyeless boy, face grown over with strange black tusks, cowers against a log. His small shoulders shake as he whispers to himself, trying to block out the relentless trail of insults. Freak, monster, death head. The boy stays long after the other children leave. You see the same eyeless boy, now a man, many years later. Another group crowds around him, but this time it is an audience. He tells a long joke about a ghost and a privy, and by the time he reaches the punchline, the crowd is yelling, starting to sound very much like the first. I feel you, buddy. Do we have the same head? No, he's the other type of death godlike. This ashtray is painted with colorful waves and whirls in the style of Rawatai. Killassus. You see a pair of chain gloves sitting on a table between 2 men. The gloves are inlaid with gold runes and glow with a faint blue aura. This man stands on one side of the table, and across from him is another man dressed in arcane robes. The man retrieves a small pouch and hands it to the wizard, telling him to count it to ensure his entire payment is there. The wizard smiles, giving the man a half bow, and then empties the pouch into his hand. You wanted these gloves to protect from thieves and other unsavory characters, he says, dropping the coins, piece by piece, back into the bag. Put them on, and they will never leave you. The man slowly slips his hands into the gloves, a look of satisfaction on his face. His smile falters a little once they're on his hands. The gloves flash briefly and then start making a light metallic tinkling noise. The look of satisfaction quickly becomes one of concern, and he grabs at the gloves, trying to pull them from his hands. His fingers tug at the openings, but they have shrunk, trapping his hands inside. The metal begins to work its way into his skin, small drops of blood appearing on the surface of the gloves. The man drops to his knees, fighting with them and crying in pain. The gloves constrict until they have completely shrunk around the man's hands, becoming one with the flesh. The man looks on in horror at his hands, then up at the wizard, who finished counting his money and is standing at the door. "You certainly won't be losing them now," he says, stepping through the door, slamming it behind him, leaving the man on the floor, staring at his hands. Ilyana Renault. Is that... I'm wondering, that last story is about this guy? And he has those gloves on? Or is it about... is he the wizard? He doesn't look like a wizard, so I'm gonna guess the former. Ilyana Renault. Renault? You see a woman sway, her voice floating gloriously above the court, lilting and sweet. It twists around them, and they smile enraptured as she palms their hearts one by one. She begins to dance, but something in her step is offbeat. She pauses, confused, a snatch of some foreign sound in the air, competing, resisting. It takes her a moment to spot him, a small man with a single brow chanting under his breath, disrupting her song with his staccato incantation. She intensifies the dance, the swing of her hips wider, her feet a flicker above the square tile ground, the underlying chant in her own song more persuasive. His lips twist intently, vibrating with the effort of countering her charm, and then a note, crystal clear, bright and tinkling. He begins to smile dazedly as her song continues, and he forgets all about resisting. She has won the day and the court.
Of course.
We'll talk to Merwith? Merwith watches you through coal-rimmed eyes. She puts her hand on the hilt of her blade, jangling the jewels that hang from her wrist. "We don't know each other, stranger. Best we keep it that way." "What brings you to the charred barrel?" Merwith raises an eyebrow. "What's it look like? Good wine and a little peace and quiet." She flips a copper coin with her thumb, and Skarian doesn't ask too many questions. "You don't seem like a Brackenbury local." "I'm a sailor." She gives you a half-smile. "And a liberator of certain goods." Merwith casually fingers a large earring. "And the nice thing about the snobs here is that they're usually too polite to ask more." Okay, I'll be going. I assume in the future we might need to talk to her, but not now. "This map charts routes through the White March. In an ixametal water jug fashioned from white clay." I wonder if all these references to the White March were in the original game, or if they were added with the expansions. I'm going to assume the former. The oven smells of roast game hen and baking bread. Well, to the cellar. Because why not? Bandits. Bandits and their leader. "Just having a little chat with me associates." Okay. "The proprietor has collected a respectable variety of bottles from around the world. From tart Edir Reds to sweet summer wines of Rawatai." That's going to say the same thing, I'm guessing. "Flasks of the infamous soul burn of the Deadfire Archipelago are nestled next to crystal clear Nasatiki and Glenfellan spirits." Pale yellow and deep amber whiskies from the Deerwood and the Living Lands rest side by side. So he keeps a good stock. And he's a little, I don't know, he lets people of all types come here. I guess if you run an inn, you have to be a little bit like that, right? give sanctuary to everyone. I guess you don't have to be. You could, deny it to those who are
Have you ever chased a skirt wizard? Or
evil.
do you merely hide behind them?
Don't pawn your personal problems off on me.
They will use you, cast you off when it suits them. Never speak another word to you.
Maybe they just don't answer to fiery whore.
Okay, so there's the Sanitarium we were heading to. I don't know if we want to go see Mr. Dominel. I guess he doesn't know about what we've done to not really betray him. Kind of a betrayal, but he didn't trust us with it, so no, it's not a betrayal. It's just a cog, or not a gear we threw in the cogs of his plan. Not a gear, a wrench. Derp. A wrench we threw in the cogs of his plan, or gears. Okay, another person here, Timothy Whitewater. You see this man kneeling naked before a dais in the center of a large round room. Across the room, opposite from where he kneels, stands a large throne. The throne's back and two of its legs are broken, rendering it unusable and causing it to tilt precariously on its stand. The room is ringed with figures clad in black robes, each chanting quietly, resulting in a low drone that pervades the room. On the dais, across the brazier, is another robed figure holding a leather-bound book with charred marks on it. He is speaking to the naked man about fealty, dedication, and law. When he finishes, he bids the other to rise and holds the book out to him over the burning coals in the brazier. The naked man nods, and the robed man drops the book into the fire. The naked man drops to one knee, briefly pressing his forehead to the side of the brazier, then stands and thrusts both of his hands into the coals at the bottom of the brazier. He retrieves the book, slowly presenting it to the robed figure before him. The man rubs his thumb on the ash that is collected in the cover of his books and uses it to draw a mark on the naked man's forehead over the burned flesh. The naked man bows his head and whispers, "Was that right, Da?" The robed man nods patiently. The naked man looks to the broken throne with childlike eyes. "Did you see that, Mum?" Rocco Francis Whitebrows. You see a burly man inspecting a dilapidated inn, the Owlmouth salesman almost dwarfing him as they walk through the once proud establishment. The walls are rife with stains, and only Weil knows what else smeared on every available surface. Not one thing stands unbroken. The moth-eaten blankets, rotting food, and trash give evidence to the succession of squatters, or a succession. The man frowns, scrutinizing the space. The Owlmouth gives a final offer, flashing two white teeth with each syllable, oversized and threatening. With a sigh and a jingle as he hands over the coin pouch, the man acquires the dump of an inn and begins to plan. I guess, have we tried talking to any of these? The Charred Barrel is the finest inn in the city if you're looking for lodging. There isn't so much as a spot on these oranges. High quality produce. There's another person's past to read, but we'll do that next time, possibly, or another time when we're heading by there. First, we're gonna... Oh, okay. Here's another one. Ark of Gath. You see a rocky clearing overgrown with weeds. A crumbling wall cuts through on one side of the trees and reaches towards each other overhead, blocking much of the light that would otherwise illuminate the body lying near the wall. The body belongs to an elf, face down in the dirt. His clothes are torn and ragged. Large bruises seem to cover him, and there are cuts, abrasions, and lacerations everywhere. Skin is exposed to the air. The elf twitches, a muffled cry escaping his lips, blowing dust around his head. He begins to moan, his hands scrabbling against the ground, fending off something you are unable to see. His breath comes faster and faster until he is almost hyperventilating. With one final sound, a swallowed scream, his eyes fly open. In an instant, he is on his feet, crouching, eyes wildly looking around. His breathing doesn't slow, and every exhalation is a groan. With one last look over his shoulder, the elf runs into the embrace of the crumbling wall's shadow, all but disappearing into the gloom. Looking down at his present condition, he murmurs, "I don't see how someone who so clearly screws his own livestock can be so sensitive about it." Oh, that gave me a chuckle. Thank you, sir. Whoever wrote that, for giving me a nice chuckle. I appreciate a good chuckle now and then. Well, let's see what the Dominels have to say.
Hail and well night.
The burly guard eyes you warily. "I don't recognize you. What business do you have with House Dominel?" "I'm just here to loot the place and kill everyone in my way." No, we're not going to do that. "Tell me about House Dominel." "It's an old and respected family. Much of Defiance Bay's prosperity is due to the Dominel business activities." "Now, do you have any further business here?" "No. Farewell." "I will see you out." And he will. Apparently. I didn't expect that. Okay. Well. Looks like we'll probably be reading about the woman by the... I was going to say throne. Fountain. The marble is cool and perfectly smooth. Droplets of crystal clear water bead the statues. Lara Rassan. You see a woman, dark-skinned taut with worry, moving aft. She scales the rigging and shouts frantically at the crew. The ship isn't turning fast enough. She looks at the captain, gaping soundlessly at the approaching vessel. Her hands blister from the descent as she jumps from rope to rope, screaming at him to take action, take charge, do something. What is she paying him for if not to defend her ship from pirates? With a squeal, as ladders are thrown across, the ship is boarded. She sprints below decks, taking the steps 3 at a time until she reaches the cargo hold. Scrabbling amongst the containers, she searches until she finds it, a blunderbuss, fully loaded. Someone grabs her from behind. She throws up a knee, whirls around, and shoots. The force sends her spine first into the wall, but her assailant falls to the ground with a half head and without an arm. Dragging herself up the stairs, she reloads and engages the enemy force with her crew. She cocks an eyebrow as the pirates drop left and right. Clearly, this was more than they bargained for when they chose her ship. Noble, noble, noble.
Hey.
Animancer. The woman is absorbed in a book, muttering softly as she reads. Net in, so we could talk to her. This is going to say, like, Brackenberry, Sanitarium. Okay, Sanitarium. Well, let's speak to her.
Well met, friend.
A woman stands in the shade of the garden, muttering to herself. She's fixated on the pages of a large and well-worn tome, seemingly oblivious to the blooming flowers and the cool, fragrant breeze. She only looks up when your shadow crosses her page. Do you mind? I'm rather busy. Oh, what are you so busy with? She snaps her book shut. I'm studying soul attachment. We all know that souls move into people at birth and out of them at death, but we still have a lot of questions about what makes them stick, so to speak. What do you mean about making them stick? She brushes a stray lock from her forehead. Souls power bodies and give their tissues life, but only when they're firmly attached. It's separation that leads to a whole spat of soul-related ailments, including the Hollowborn. But if we understood how to reattach souls, we could end Widewind's legacy, maybe even conquer death. She scratches behind her ear. That's the theory, anyway. Unfortunately, I don't have all the research I need to put it into practice. What exactly do you need? I mean, you meddle in things you don't understand. Scientists, and if any advancement is to be made, you need to meddle in things you don't understand, but you also need to meet that, in my opinion, with a morality. So maybe their main problem is that lots of them didn't have a firm enough morality, or maybe, you know, they were trying to do a good thing, so If they continue to try and do a good thing, maybe they'll correct the wrongs they did before. I guess people say the road to hell is paved with good intentions, but I digress. There's a manuscript called The Theorems of Pangram. It contains research from Pangram's experiments on detached souls. The Hall of Revealed Mysteries is rumored to have a copy in the Elder's archives. Pangram's work is considered to be one of the more daring animancy texts, not something generally circulated among novices, nor easy to get a hold of. I wonder if we might have to peek at it, or have a peek at it. The theorems could advance my research by leaps and bounds, but Grimda, the High Archivist, worships Whale, I can never say that right, which means she has some paradoxical views on sharing and restricting knowledge. And since she's not exactly a proponent of animancy, she tends to restrict the kinds of information that would be useful to me. I'm sorry to hear that. She sighs. Look at me spilling my troubles. It's kind of you to listen, but I should really get back to work. Anything else? She looks eager to return to her studies. Tell me about yourself. I'm an animancer at the Sanitarium. Currently, I'm researching matters related to Widewind's legacy. Well, we know what it is, but let's ask her. What's Widewind's legacy? Widewind's legacy refers to the rise in Hollowborn children in the Deerwood in recent years. They have also connected it to so-called bioex that blow through Air Glanfath. There's hardly any reliable data on those, though, so I can't really comment. She sniffs. I don't much care for the term Widewind's legacy. It reeks of superstition, but it's too prevalent to change at this point. Personally, I'd like to see people take a more methodical approach to these matters rather than throwing up their hands and blaming the gods. Do you think Deerwoodans would see too much fun in that? Or don't think Deerwoodans would see too much fun in that? I have some questions about the theorems of Pangram. Such as? Tell me about the theorems of Pangram. Pangram was an animancer working in the Deerwood. He had some interesting theories about essence and some rather innovative techniques for studying it. He was able to reattach souls to bodies after death, although he wasn't able to prevent his patients from degenerating. He was controversial, to say the least, but many are starting to realize that he was merely ahead of his time. What do you mean by degenerating? Nedin twists her hands together. Well, there seems to be a tiny problem with reattaching souls after death. The bodies will reanimate and may even retain memories and personality, but they develop a hunger for flesh. Living, soul-infused flesh. That sounds like Herbert West Reanimator. Without it, they start to devolve, decaying mentally and physically. If the process goes too far, which it eventually does, they become mindless corpses attacking anything that moves. We haven't figured out a way to avoid that. Maybe don't reattach the souls? Just a guess. That is a more than inconvenient side effect. You've reproduced an unnatural curse with little to show for it. That sounds like necromancy. Nonsense! Necromancy is magic. This is science. She emphasizes the last word. Science! For science. Why doesn't Grimda lend you the books you need? The Hall of Revealed Mysteries is rather protective of its books, especially the rarer ones, and Grimda in particular. She hates animancy, thinks it's dangerous. I don't see how you could run the greatest library in the Deerwood and be so adverse to the spread of knowledge and research, but I've never understood those religious types. Aloth scowls at the animancer. Some knowledge is best kept under lock and key. I'd like to know more about the Hall of Revealed Mysteries. You'll find it in the Copperlane district. It's dedicated to the gods of secrets and revelations, or God. Most importantly, it houses the largest and most expansive library in the Deerwood. Well, that settles it. We simply must go see it, right? Well, we were there, Kana, and you didn't seem to care. What are the Elder Archives? The Elder Archives hold the rarest, most arcane, and most powerful texts in the Deerwood. Think of it as the inner sanctum of the Hall of Revealed Mysteries. Needless to say, you need Grimda's permission to enter. That's all I wanted to ask. Okay, I'll leave you alone for now. Now, nothing over here. Nope, nothing doing. So let's head in here. Let's also give it a save. I don't know if this is the right thing to do, helping this necromancer. But I feel like if we don't, we might not be able to help the old man's friend. Or friend's soul. Which is important to me. The table is set with an assortment of leaflets and booklets with titles like Practical Benefits of Animancy and Soul Adjustment for the Well-Adjusted Soul. I guess it has a little mask if it's stealing, right? I don't know if I could take that. I don't want to... Let's just try. No, nobody's attacking me? Okay. And these are probably going to Adir. Good enough. I'm not going to read them this time because we've done lots of reading.
Alright then.
But I will read them before I put them away. And we got, like, we already have 2 more stories to read of people, so we won't bother reading these books this time. Psalm to Wodica. Why are you going all the way? Oh, I see, because I clicked the mouse button. Midwife's Memoirs. What's this say? What your soul may be trying to tell you. There was somebody here a second ago. Head Warden Ethelmore. A well-maintained statue of a middle-aged man presides over the room, looking down, unblinking over the bustle of harried academics pestered by the hopeful desperate. A strong warmth emanates from it that you could sense from across the room. There is a human soul stored beneath the stonework. You feel its attention turn towards you. Huh. Interesting. It has been some time since a watcher graced these halls. His voice echoes deeply, rumbling the floor beneath you. I am envious of your natural insights, traveler. I can only imagine how it might have helped my life, or my work in life. Now, what is it that has brought you to my sanitarium? Well, tell me about it first. A history lesson? This is a rare pleasure. Most come in here only concerned with cheating death in one way or another. We are an old institution, as Deerwood goes. This is our 94th year. As with many cities, the growth of Defiance Bay brought with it a host of problems. One of the worst was that those born with, shall we say, ill-favored souls came to populate its streets in droves, thus the sanitarium. Brackenbury was a natural fit. It was growing, but there was also a lot of money here back then. This place owes its survival to the curiosities of the wealthy more than anything, I think. Our founding came at a time of great suspicion in animancy, much like today. So much progress has been lost to the mishaps of a few careless practitioners. But in time it was forgotten, as all things are. Since then, we have been at the forefront of animancy's resurgence. We have played host to many gifted researchers and pushed the boundaries of our knowledge in ways never thought possible. Some of the first safe transferences were done here, and we have pioneered work in soul purification, lineage analysis, preservation. It's really quite a list, if you'll pardon my pride. Today it's... well, I can't say it's exactly the same. There's been some push to shut us down. It comes from Deerwood's more excitable denizens, whose minds are more passionate than thoughtful, I'm afraid. People see this legacy, and they see it involves something that they don't understand. So, it's natural for them to suspect people whose understanding exceeds theirs. It looks to them like we're hiding something. We have a representative in the palace this very moment defending the entire science of animancy at a hearing before the Duke, absurd as it sounds. If it does not go well, it could be the end of animancy in Deerwood. I fear Avar may be swayed by all this unrest, irrational though it may be. We shall see. I'm curious as to how you've come to be in your present state. In the statue, you mean? Well, I was old, and it seemed wrong to me, a lifetime spent in pursuit of discovery, only to lose it all in death. Somewhere, someday I would wake up in a new body, none the wiser, and pursue a different course entirely, all that experience wasted. If we are ever to unearth the principles behind our existence, it will be in spite of our condition. Of that I am quite sure. To live on as part of something I helped build seemed to me a better legacy than what nature had in store. The transfer itself was quite simple as our techniques go, and for that I am grateful. Playing with souls is far easier to accept when they are not your own. I do miss being able to take an active role in the scholarly efforts here. Now and again, one of our animancers will humor me and consult over some problem, but they are a jealous breed, and are often too afraid to collaborate. If you are considering it yourself, you could tell, or I could tell you, that it isn't for the easily bored. Kind of like our throne, I guess. Same type of idea. I'm looking for an animancer named Modred. Head Warden Ethelmar. Modred, of course. You'll find him downstairs in the first room on the right. Farewell. Okay. Well, I guess I'll have to end it here. So, until next time, if you enjoyed it, please leave me a like, subscribe if you want to see more, and leave me a comment. Let me know what you thought. This is FatherofTwo, signing off.